like, hey, just watch this video with me. And he was like, okay, what's it about? And I said, it's Monty Python. And he goes, okay, cool. And they start singing it. And he was like, so it's a song about lumberjacks. And he was like, he's sitting there listening. I'm watching him. And Alice comes up and goes, I want to hear. And I was like, no, tell Alice to go away. Tell Alice to go away. And so he's like, okay, there's something in this. And I could see it in his eyes as they rolled. And he's like, okay, what's bad in here that Papa doesn't want Alice to hear? And then it dawned, and you could see the realization of where this was going. And he had to took it off and he started laughing. He goes, why would you do that to me? I said, because I care about your education.
Yes. Yeah. This man is about to die.
This man has chosen poorly. Thank you, Mr. What was the guy's name? Thank you, Mr. This man is chosen properly. He's remained hidden throughout the whole exercise. Stand up and let everybody know who you are. Boom.
Boom.
First mistake,
Yeah, it goes through. Yeah, the advantages of not being seen.
Seen, yeah.
Come on, stand up. Oh,
Right.
see, he's learned. Now he has chosen poorly, as it is very obvious where he could be hiding. And it goes to the last one. It's like he's still chosen a fairly obvious spot, but we have three choices. First, the left bush blows up. Now the right bush. He was behind the right bush. Oh shit.
That or the whole the leaves.
Mommy, daddy, mommy, dad. No, it's mommy, daddy, mommy, daddy, mommy. Ah!
Right. What to do if somebody comes at you armed with a banana?
A banana. And then I remember one time we were making fish, and we were cleaning them, and that whole skit popped in my head. And I can't remember if it was Donna. It was somebody who was helping me in the kitchen. And I was like doing the whole song and started dancing. What are you doing? And I went, with the chose poorly because they didn't think it was quite as funny as I did. But the ministry of crazy walks, Ray used to do that. We'd be walking down the street and all of a sudden he'd start doing the John Cleese walk, and I'd be like, quit doing that, people are staring at us. We both start doing it. Oh, God, I always needed, that was one thing I miss, is outgoingness of me, my family, and my brothers. We didn't care if we were in public, we would act a fool, and sometimes people would look at you funny, and sometimes they wouldn't. Like Gene was famous for, like, we'd go on an elevator and then it would be bust ass and it'd be rank. And as soon as he saw somebody getting on, when that door opened and got off, he'd look at me and go, God, man, and walk off the elevator.
Now the fun one is you bust ass and then somebody comes up, you say, hey, you smell popcorn?
I remember one time we were at my job and we were going to pick up something, and he goes, we're in a crowded elevator in downtown Houston with all these business people, and he goes, which dress are you wearing tonight? Oh God, I miss that spontaneity, and the fun thing that we used to do. Now everybody does these, what do you call them, where they start dancing.
The flash dancing.
The flash dancing and flash singing. We were doing that stuff.
Flash mobbing. Flash mob, not flash
yeah.
dancing.
Is that even still a thing? I haven't.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, it still is. Yeah.
Okay. I don't have much of a social media presence, so I don't keep up with the latest trends and fads. And all the various things that the kids are.
Oh man, if they broke out if we were walking through like a mall and they would play the Blues Brothers theme song, in the mall, man, we'd break out and do the Blues Brother dance, I'm having way too many memories right now. Let's move on.
Well, that's the episode that we're going to have whenever we get Randy and Mike on here. So that way you guys can have your moment of telling all the story.
I don't know. I know that Randy will probably not mind. I don't know how honest Mike will be on some of this thing.
If Randy's on there, he'll be like, wait a minute.
And I know that there's some things that we will not talk about. Certain Halloween costumes. Don't. I know you want to do it, but don't do it.
Well, thinking of Logan, I feel bad for the boy because I think of the D&D group that we've got, he has been having the roughest time of it.
Oh my God.
Is that the new one y'all started recently?
Yeah. We thank God we trimmed the party down from a whopping 10 players to 8. So now combat rounds only last about half an hour, give or take. But I'm talking about like to cycle through everybody.
Everybody, yeah.
Yeah. But so on this last one, he decided to climb up into a tree, and then he was going to try to jump from one tree to another tree and then take a shot at something. And he rolled a nat 1 as he was trying to jump from tree to tree. It just collapsed. And then
cartoon style.
Brock went just Kool-Aid Manning through a slowly this decrepit old hut, and just went blowing through it. And Logan's like, "Oh, I'm gonna go behind him." Well, on the other side of the hut was Johnny, who's playing a druid who had a werewolf all up in his face. So he decided to do Thunder Wave. Well, he was within the hut. So Brock is powering through this hut, and then Johnny just lets out this Thunder Wave that just obliterates like that whole side of the hut and flings it all out towards Logan. At a certain point, he's like, "I'm just gonna back up and go over there now."
Yeah, I'm gonna stay here with pom poms and go, yay, yay.
So
Johnny, he's our
you're
man.
You're gonna get that total PK.
The TPK, they were trying really hard because they were talking so much shit. When we started things off, I'm like, "All right, guys, we're doing this," and then they kept bringing up the stupid rocks. So the in joke to that is one of the last major encounter that we had. I was using all the like little default BS crap that Roll20 gives you. So I had bushes, and I was putting bushes and trees all over this little field, and everybody's like, "Oh, what are all these rocks doing everywhere?" I'm like, "They're not rocks, they're bushes." And they keep referring to them as rocks. So it got referred to as rocks enough. A dragon may or may not was about to descend on these adorable level 4 heroes, and they were about to all turn very, very crispy. Oh no, I was gonna say, then they stopped, but now they're starting it again. So we'll see.
So I gotta ask, did my character just stay at the tavern, get drunk?
I don't think we're still involved in that. I believe our characters said we've,
No. This is okay. So David did this whole thing where all of our characters that continue to play the game just woke up in this new world, this new town somewhere and some other country.
Yeah.
So
because everybody's like, "Oh yeah, we were doing the Phandalin thing from the core books," and I'm like, I can put something together that's better than that. So instead of being in Neverwinter, everyone's in Eversummer because Neverwinter is a silly place.
Yeah. With a bar.
Far too silly.
Multiple bars. And so this whole campaign was literally me, your wife, and your son waiting and actually progressing the story along while it was Nancy Drew and her friends going around investigating the town to figure out what's wrong and to buy magical items from shopkeepers.
Okay, wait a minute. That is because I taught y'all when you play, because there was a good DM is going to layer things and leave clues. And logically, you would think that the people would want to hunt for clues, and then half the people would just go want to Leroy Jenkins it.
It was David was like this. David had like signs. this quest here. Go here. Neon signs and everything. Like, this is here. This is China's here, Mr. Burton. But no, it was, we're gonna go look and hey, look, there's a sandbox. We're gonna go jump in the sandbox and try to find treasure.
I mean, it was fine. It was just like, hey, they would come up to a shopkeep, and I went to this whole explanation about how like she's worried about her sister and hasn't heard from her in months, and there hasn't been any traders coming from over there and all this stuff. And they're like, all right, cool. So can you make me a special dagger? And I'm like, yes. What exactly what's special about this dagger? And explain all of it to me. And I'm like, all right, cool. It'll take 2 days. Let me just roll. Yeah, 2 days. It'll take 2 days. All right, cool. And I'm pretty sure they've forgotten all about that, which is fine. I mean, it's just one of those things where when you don't know what you're doing and you're in the moment and you feel the need to, man, I bet if I just go to this store, I can buy a better dagger than what I have. It's like, well, no, not really, because daggers are just a base stat in the game. So a Chris dagger.
Yeah, this is not friggin' a RPG electronic game where you can go purchase everything you want. Yeah, it's like I used to hate throwing magical rings in because everybody wanted a magical ring, and you always knew that the last wish was going to be either unlimited wishes or another magical ring. So how I fixed some people who would do that was I made, yes, you got your final third wish, but as a curse upon it, it was after you made the wish, you forgot who you were and what you were doing and wandered around like a drooling fool. So then they would go, some of them would get smart and go, well, I'm going to cast, detect curse or magic upon this. Well, it's a magic ring. That's why you're wanting it, right? So it's magic. Well, do I detect a curse on it? No. Roll the damn dice. That's,
Are you invested in like learning, ancient witchcraft and black magic of how things would be cursed? No. Then how would you know?
I mean, we were not vindictive, but Randy and Colin and all of us who have took our turns, we'd hurt somebody, and not hurt them like that, but punish them when they would just either distract the game or want to hoard the treasure, or God forbid, I need to immediately add in my experience points right freaking now so I can up my. We're in the middle of battle. I don't care.
Okay, guess what?
Storm clouds come rolling over the horizon, and lightning rains down on your head.
Yeah.
The only thing was that when Randy did it, there was always some sexual consequence for your action, like a horde of horny something came and drug you off, and you used your party finds you later naked with a French maid outfit on. I remember one time he had a woman who was a deity that tortured you. I forgot the fine print on that, and I called her to help us, and she helped, and then I was gone, and I was like, damn, why do you? He goes, hey, quit doing stupid stuff.
You learn to play better when consequences and stuff are at stake.
Yeah, I mean, that's again the name of this group right now is the band of mostly bad decisions.
That's great.
It's good. It's been good.
Oh yeah, that's why their mascot's Kool-Aid Man.
I'm a little worried because Ember did say during this last one that, oh hey, this other person might be deciding to join and they're going to be a bard, and I'm like, combat.
All right, David, I can't come back to the game. Just have my character.
No, but you have to. Okay, the whole point to the game was to make people be in their character. Right. And make them play their alignment, make them do and act like, don't let them, well, I'm going to go and do that. No, that's not what your character would do. And make them talk and do it. See how long they want to be a bard when you have to rhyme every word that you say as you're walking. Well,
he didn't say he was going to be the demon. He just said he was going to be a bard.
Brave Sir Robin,
There you go.
So
Yeah.
yeah, because
We'll see how
my character,
it wasn't a set in stone thing. I think he was open. They were like seeing how he liked how things ran. So I'm hoping maybe not, but we'll see. We'll see. She's like, yeah, maybe he could show up in this village. I'm like, you think he can show up in a cursed village filled with werewolves and tree creatures that come out of the ground that was cursed by an ancient god once upon a time, and obviously there's sure, yeah, let's throw a bard in here. I will figure out a way. If I could fit Brock into a spider egg, I can fit someone into this situation. We'll see how that goes.
Robert E. Howard had a bard that pestered the hell out of Conan, so in the later books, so you can do it.
Yeah,
you can do it.
Is that where the witcher guy stole Dandelion?
So Brock's whole thing was, instead of wanting to play the paladin anymore, he decided to play barbarian. So he's like, yeah, I'm gonna kill myself, and then you bring me in as this other character.
Hold on. He didn't have to kill himself though.
No, he didn't.
The party kept killing him.
Oh my god, that was so. I tried to keep him alive.
And then it just got to a point where he just took critical damage and he's laying there and he's like, can I just die? I'm like, I mean, technically you don't have to roll your saving throws. So sure.
You should have had him just die and then all of a sudden fall into the game again, just exactly who he was.
Well,
and go, Jumanji rule.
His Yamcha curled up corpse stayed on the map fairly consistently. And then it led to a good little moment because they went down to the sewers of this town, and I had found it's not in the base game. It was this other book that I found a bunch of kind of older monsters from some of the older versions of D&D and some other fantasy RPGs that people have converted to 5e rules, right? And one of the more interesting features of it were zombies that had basically been animated through spiders. And so it was these walking corpses that were just covered in spiders that would vomit spiders at you. And if you were too close to them, you would start taking damage every round that you were within a certain distance, because they, again, just poisonous spiders were just constantly on them, right?
So truly eight-legged freaks.
Yeah, basically. But it was eight-legged freaks. It's been forever since I've watched that. But anyways, so, there was a much larger spider that created those things by going up to a corpse, vomiting a bunch of spiders onto it, and then after a turn, it would animate and start moving around.
I'm glad you said vomit.
Yes, I mean that's what it is. But
it's kind of like
so the whole idea was, because we're dealing with spiders, it's drow, because I'm lazy and I play to the classics. So there was an area where they had captured a bunch of people, spun them up in spider eggs, right, and had them stored in this whole place. And I knew that Brock was going to be in one of those. I even rolled to see which one his character was going to be in, because I was curious what they were going to do. And I forget who it was. I think it was the dragon. I think it was the druid. Decided to start setting fire
to all the
to the spider. And I'm sitting there and I'm looking, and I'm like, man, they're getting really close. I wonder if he's going to get to him. And then finally, someone had the idea. They're like, hey, maybe we should cut these open and see if there's people inside, and not just murder the shit out of them. And so half the eggs all got burned, but they were able to rescue Brock and a couple others. But then the Dragonborn was like, hey, is there like leftovers of people in these things? And I'm like, yeah, sure. Orphans, basically. I mean, that's y'all burned up a bunch of orphans that have been trapped by these spiders. And he's like, all right, cool. And just started pulling out bones and chewing on them.
Yeah.
Well, he's a Dragonborn, so he's been there. Yeah, it's been fun.
Weird. I would have handled that totally different. Like if they were in the sewers, I would have decided to make everybody in town have to go to the bathroom with explosive diarrhea at that one time, and they all flushed at one time.
See, I'm trying to have everybody have their fun as we move through this.
That is fun. You ever ran from a tidal wave of shit?
What's sad is one of the most effective combatants was one of the two that left. The Hobbit girl. Holy shit, man! She would just like walk. This little bitty hobbit with a quarterstaff. She was this meek little lady, right? She didn't really talk really loud. It was just like, all right, it's the Hobbit's turn. What are you gonna do? And she's like, well, I guess I'll just walk up and hit it with my quarterstaff. And I'm like, all right, roll it. She's like, I rolled a 20. I'm like, what the shit? And I was like, all right, roll damage. And she like max damage every time. It was insane. So this meek little hobbit would just like, I started calling her the friendly homicidal hobbit, right? Or the
neighborhood friendly hobbit.
You start decimating everything, and then just kind of back up and be like, okay, I'm gonna go over here and throw this potion on the paladin to res him one more time.
That was like Ember, man, back in the day.
And go into a murderous frenzy and stave in something's head, and then go back to meek little me again. It was great.
So Yoda.
Yes.
Yes.
I'm sorry, David. Walking with a limp.
That's absolutely what she was. It was fantastic. And then they left, but they also had and were falling asleep in it. But we were also playing super, super late on a Saturday, right? And I understand if you're up early on Saturday mornings, right, with kids, and then you're trying to stay up super late at the same time, it's a little rough. But
yeah, it's really, really difficult for your generation. I mean, right, Colin?
Bunch of slackers.
Try playing 24, 30,
36,
24, 48 hours straight, where I'm Mountain Dewing or it's Dr. Peppering and Joe Cola through, and just keep going.
Pizza's here. Yeah. No.
And then, how do they ever get to battling armies at that point? Because we had characters who got so powerful. We played so long, we're talking years and years of play with them, that we were having to put them up against armies of things.
And that's one of the things that I've never gotten to in D&D was the army side of it. But I have friends that have played.
Oh, that's great.
And so their immediate mindset, right? Most people who get into D&D for the very first time, they're thinking in the same context as like I did when I first got into it the first time is, I'm the hero. I'm going to run around and do stuff because I'm awesome. I've played Elder Scrolls, and that's what I'm going to be. I'm going to be, the special person, and I'm going to kick all the kinds of butt. And then I watch as my entire party just gets like decapitated by a bunch of orcs that ambushed us as we walked into a room. And then me and the only other surviving member are like firing arrows as we're retreating down a hallway, getting the hell out of the dungeon. I never thought about, technically, if you like have enough charisma or have just built up enough renown or fear, whichever it is, you could actually start technically building up a kingdom, raising an army, because how else do you attack some kind of greater lich with an army of undead and not spend, like you said, 48 hours just wading through untold numbers of undead trying to get to this thing? It's like, you technically at some point have to raise an army, but I don't think most people, their minds don't usually go there. So
it's called being strategic. You could find other ways to get to that point.
Well, you could also set up traps and things like that. But then, like, Colin, who was it? Was it Randy or Mike who had wave? One had a staff, I had a sword, somebody else had something, and these were, army killers. And I remember somebody using wave and just one slash taking out hundreds of orcs that we were on this hill, and they chose poorly. But do you remember those characters? They were some of our first character and our oldest characters. One of mine. Oh, that was the different one. The one that Randy killed him with. Didn't kill him. I failed some rolls, and he was taken over by a mind flare. And then later on, after I had to bring up another character, Randy threw me against my own character, who is now a slave to the mind flare, and I had to kill him. And I was like, "You bastard!"
It's good stuff, though. Now, the absolute best that I've ever heard of someone who essentially got an ability that just completely broke the game to the point where, I mean, if the DM had really tried, they probably could have undone this somehow. But from the way I understood it, the party had attacked some kind of undead king. I don't know if it was a greater lich or what it was, but they had a castle that was entirely made of bones that could reform itself into whatever they wanted. and it could also fly. So they killed the thing that controlled the castle, but then they took control of it for themselves. And so they would just fly around in essentially, a Castle Grayskull, right? But made of bones. And then they would just, like from the G.I. Joe movie, right? They would launch bones like into the ground and just devastate entire areas of stuff. Just because they could. It's like, okay, guys, this one place is causing ruckus.
Of G.I. Joe.
What do y'all want to do? Well, we're just gonna go and bomb the guy's house and see how he likes that. So it worked.
Okay.
I never got to experience anything like that. Every role-playing game I've ever tried to be a part of lasts for like maybe, I think at most 5 sessions, and then it fizzles out or everybody wants to move on to something else. But that's when I was playing with more seasoned players, and they're like, yeah, I've already kind of done this before. I want to go play mage now. But then no one knows how to play mage because it's super weird. So then everybody wants to go back to D&D. But now we got to start a new campaign. And then, now this other guy wants to play a sci-fi game. So now we play this, and it just bounce and bounce and bounce, and you never really can make a lot of progress. But it's fun. It's just hanging out on a weekend and telling a bunch of stupid stories and rolling dice.
I had one character who, well, not mine, it was a player who, whenever there was a battle, he would hide. Or at one point we had been in this massive fight, and he grabbed one of the bodies and pulled it over him to hide throughout the fight. And so I was like, okay, fine, I'm going to fix you. So I had the invading army walking and sticking into the corpse with spears to see if there was somebody, if the guy underneath it was alive. And he kept making saving throws and they wouldn't find him. And I was like, damn it. And eventually the war was over, and he flipped it up and he goes like, hey, where's the treasure? And I was like, please, somebody shoot him in the back of the arrow. Do something, catch him on fire. Do something. And the other thing I really enjoyed doing was always putting a spy in a game, where you'd slide him a little thing saying, you're going to double cross your team at some point in the year, and you do whatever you want, but this is what I want you to do up to that. And
then you're out of the game.
That was a fun thing. Yeah.
Then it was like, here, slide this character. This is what you're going to play after this.
Right.
No, yeah, well, or you let them play their character, but they have to flip everything.
Yeah.
This is what I like about this Batch of Monsters book I was able to find, is what you just described. I technically have a fix for that. It's called a Bloody Bones, and it's basically a skeleton that has its intestines and everything else animated in it. So yeah, hide yourself under a corpse. Go ahead. I'll just animate it because bullshit DM reasons.
It's the thing, man.
Because DM is another word for
sorry.
Yeah. Don't want to alienate anybody.
Hey everyone, welcome to the Download Podcast, episode 33. This week we're going to be discussing Saturday morning cartoons, everyone's favorite time in the morning, unless you're my sister who could not wake up for anything. But we love you. All right, so this week I'm joined by my father, my Uncle Colin, and David, our resident complainer about everything.
I do.
But he has the passion for love. And
what you need to do is every time you introduce David, you have to have the special effects behind him. That's this golden aura that goes,
David. Anyway,
like one of those bad comedy sketches. And David.
and David.
That's fun.
Well, yeah, it's like every time I introduce him, he'd be like, and David.
Hello, Newman.
Great. Now he's Eeyore.
Hey, with his blue shirt.
Cartoons. David, which ones did you hate the most?
As a counterpoint, here's David. Hated it. Did you ever see it? No. How do you know you hated it? Because I know I hated it.
I absolutely hate it.
Because I've seen other things like it, and it looks similar to the things I hate, so I just didn't like it.
I'm the one who always goes, I hate that movie. I'm going to get up and leave for a minute.
No, Dad, you're the one who tells the ending of the movie to friends that Haven't seen it yet.
Well, catch up, watch a damn movie every now and then. 2 years later, don't be going, I haven't seen it yet. Well, too damn bad.
See, I'm the one who will tell you the end of the movie right after I've seen it because
Dad would do that too.
Because of bullshit reasons.
If I'm going to in a group and the group is all talking about the subject and you think, wow, okay, they've seen it, then you just throw out, well, what did you think of this scene? And about half of them turn and give you the devil eye. That was a mistake. I rolled poorly on that one, since we're talking about D&D earlier. But yeah, poor Josh just happens to be the one who's
Yes, Josh
the
happens to be the
recipient
one
of
always
that
gets
the most of the time.
Even video games, that he gets
Yeah.
that same. Man, poor Josh.
I haven't watched it yet, but you bought 4,000 new video games and 10 million new action
The
figures.
4,000 video games is me. He does the figures. Remember, David's the one who does
Go
the movie.
see it. Just buy him tickets and take him to the movie so you can damn talk about it.
Well, he's gonna go see Batman. I was talking to him about that. He's gonna go see Batman this weekend, which I need to go see, but it all depends.
I'm gonna go see it tomorrow.
My
Before we
brother
get
went and saw it, had some good stuff to say about it. So
the really cold weather coming in. Yeah, I'm not gonna. I've had friends who liked it, and I've had friends who absolutely hated it. I'm gonna judge for myself.
Yeah.
I'm kind of looking forward to seeing, the Penguin and some of the other characters, because I'm tired of the Joker. I'm tired of movies where they keep using the same villains over and over again. And they've got these massive rogues galleries that would be awesome on film, but we never get to see them because they can't get out of that mindset.
Yes. And as we were talking about last episode, me and David had a really good conversation about having Clayface be a villain at some point, which would be fantastic.
Clayface would be great. Speaking of Clayface and Batman and Saturday morning cartoons, the cartoon that I grew up with the most, and I actually when it wasn't on Saturday morning, right? It would come on sometimes during the weekdays. And at the time, I was being babysat, and I got into Batman the animated series, man, so hard. Every time it was getting ready to come on, I would run out and gather all the kids and be like, "Come on, we need to go watch Batman. I don't know what he's fighting." And that was the great. And that was one of the greatest things about animated series, right? There was a lot of Joker episodes. There was a lot of Joker to it. He was a great Joker. But man, there was so much. I barely even really recall a lot of the Joker episodes with a lot of clarity, right? When you had stuff like, Feet of Clay, when you had Two-Face's episode, whenever he would run into Roz, right?
Heart of Ice for Mr. Freeze.
The Gray Ghost episode is fantastic, right? You had so many good moments. And then when they would play into like all the old monster movies, right? You had the whole episode devoted to him fighting an actual werewolf. You had the Island of Dr. Moreau episode where Catwoman got literally turned into a Catwoman, right? And Tigress and all that stuff.
To believe it or not, that made Man-Bat a prominent character, because in the comics, he was an occasional villain, and kind of a throwaway character for when you had stories, but he actually, they did something with him. I really love the fact that all stemmed from Tim Burton, because it was a direct response or a reaction to the success of the first Batman movie. The music is straight up a version of the theme music from Batman,
from the Danny Elfman theme.
Yeah. So, and we owe a lot to that first Keaton movie, because it really showed that superheroes, Blade did his own thing for Marvel and stuff, but Batman really showed that at that point it could be a viable franchise, big blockbuster. And man, can you imagine somewhere in the Elseworld there's where that movie flopped and we never got anything of, because you ended up with Batman, Adventures of Batman, you ended up with the Adventures of Superman, Justice League, which Justice League just hit it out of the park. And then they did what was the
Justice League Unlimited.
Unlimited, and then
Batman,
they did
Batman
the short. Well, no, I'm talking in that same universe. You ended
Batman
up
Beyond's
with
in the same universe.
Batman universe, and then what was the what's his name? the kid who Static Shock, and then you had the robot, and then you had all the minis. There was that series where there were 15-minute vinaigrettes, and there'd be like 2 per episode, and man, everything from one movie shows you how things can affect culture.
Think about that too. You had what? For superhero cartoons, we at the time we had what, Spider-Man and the Amazing Friends. We had the X-Men's what was it? Pride of the X-Men pilot that was supposed to be the original X-Men series instead of what we got later in the 90s. And same thing with Spider-Man. We didn't get the Spider-Man series until in the 90s. So we didn't really.
Oh, but we had plenty of Spider-Man. We had plenty of Spider-Man. I mean, there was Spider-Man the original 60s. There was Spider-Man the 70s. There was an 80s Spider-Man. There was Spider-Man and His Amazing Friends.
No, and that's what I mean. But it was the 90s cartoon that really kind of, because of Batman, it had more of a darker tone. It played up on adult themes versus like, all right, friends, Spider-Man and His Amazing Friends, and narrated by Stan Lee, and we didn't have. I mean, the closest we got to that, besides Batman, was the Turtles, the original Turtles cartoon.
I'm still an old school fan. I prefer the
but adaptations
Eastman
I know for Mirage Comics, yes. But as far as what I'm saying is that a cartoon based off a comic that actually was successful like that, of that magnitude, I mean, it created that momentum.
And what's funny is it was He-Man first, right? Then Thundercats.
So
and then Turtles.
Yes.
Because as each one waned, something new came in to kind of.
Correct. And those were the more serious. Well, He-Man wasn't serious. I mean, Filmation with this stuff, it was a great show, and I enjoyed it when I was a kid for what it was. It wasn't until we got the one in the the early 2000s that was really kind of like gave He-Man the due that he deserved. But Thundercats was one that was a more darker toned theme cartoon for kids versus looking at He-Man. I mean, and then what you had, geez, I'm going into it right now. Let me see. I'm looking. Good thing is I mean,
there was.
Yeah, because I mean, you had. Yeah, go ahead, Colin.
I was gonna say you had a lot of crap filler stuff, like what was it, Silverhawks?
Oh,
and it's still and then you
got Street Sharks, Biker Mice from Mars.
Hey,
yeah.
Well, yeah, we had all the copycat cartoons that were based off of from the Turtles. But I mean, you look at like,
how about Bucky O'Hare?
Yeah.
Earthworm Jim.
Yeah.
Earthworm Jim is fantastic.
So here we go.
But we're actually getting off here. Let's get back to the point of Saturday morning, because the downfall of Saturday morning cartoons came about because cartoons were no longer specifically for kids on Saturday morning, but because you got them 5 days a week in the morning and in afternoons. And it became less of a moment. Oh man, it's Saturday morning. I'm gonna go eat cereal, sit in front of the tube, and I'm gonna watch cartoons. And when cartoons go off, the 12 a.m., the afternoon martial arts or horror shows
or Godzilla.
And you would that was your whole Saturday morning until about 2:30, and then boom, it was out the door.
Right.
Yeah, because it was all that whole the talk shows and the TV dramas, or some of the channels it was the soaps.
And then that was during the week. On Saturdays it was sports. God forbid,
on a Saturday?
Golf. On a Saturday, yeah.
Okay.
Wide world of sports was Saturday and then Sunday.
Shows you how much I pay attention to that.
And then Sunday was the world of Disney. That you look forward to. Those were that's where the family events came in, where everybody would sit and watch TV.
Yeah, I mean, I'm kind of like on the edge of that, right? Because a lot of my cartoon viewing, I can remember, I remember a lot of Disney Channel stuff when that started coming around. and it started being a kind of everyday thing. Cartoon Network eventually took hold, right? And then it was just all day. But I mean, Saturday morning itself, you know, whenever I think of that, I think of a lot of the old Fox Kids and what was it? Kids WB and all that, right? That's where you had Animaniacs, you had Tiny Toons. What else was there? And then outside of that, right?
Well, gummy bears, the Smurfs,
Well, if we're going to go into Disney, right? Then you've got
You mean Care
Tailspin.
Bears?
Care Bear. No, gummy bears was they were bears in medieval times that drank a potion that made them rubbery, and they would bounce. And they were a cartoon created around the gummy bear chewies. But Disney did it. And then Disney started producing everything, you know.
That was a fantastic show too.
DuckTales, Darkwing Duck.
I was about to say, we want to talk about the echoes of Batman the Animated Series, right? That's how we got Gargoyles and technically Darkwing, right? Darkwing is a spinoff of that in a way.
Mostly the Phantom, but yeah.
I mean, those were two really good shows as well. And then just in the vein of superheroes outside of that, how about the Tick?
Yeah,
I remember that.
Yep.
I'm the Mad Bomber who bombs at midnight. For his first villain.
What was the Chippendale chair? The man with the chair head.
Let's talk about the one that everybody seems to be skipping around here. Bugs Bunny.
Oh yeah.
You know, I had this conversation with Vince a while back, where how cartoons, you know, did that transition, but they also changed in context and what they presented, because, like with Superman, the old serials, you know, people were like, "Oh, you can't have kids running around with towels tied around their neck; they're going to jump out a window." And then to prove their point, some child would try to test gravity and fail. You know, so we ended up with, in comics, the comics code,
The comics code.
and then in
Video games we had the ESRB.
right, but in animation it became we have to protect our kids because God forbid they drop an anvil on somebody's head or run off of a cliff.
Right.
Well,
You know,
and the
if that's what your kid does, then there's other problems.
What's going on? Yeah,
Probably you're in your parenting.
One of the biggest things is we went from cartoons being marketed for kids for toys, so that whole big legal thing, so that way you couldn't market something, or couldn't have a cartoon that was based on a toy line. And
right, because it wasn't until the 80s that was all stripped away. I mean, back then, you would, in the early days, it was shows for kids that the parents would watch with them. And then they would advertise to the parent something that they wanted to sell to the parent. Then every now and then, like at the holidays or something, you'd start getting a few toy commercials. But cereal and all this other junk wasn't marketed towards children. And as it became more commercialized, we ended up losing, because nobody wanted to offend anybody, and people were discovering the power of boycotting. So if a group of parents didn't like what you were presenting, you know, boycott your product. So they started becoming more wholesome, and we ended up with like Lassie, Long Ranger, and all these things that used to be on the radio transitioning over to television. And then we had cartoons where, like Bugs Bunny, Roadrunner, and them were direct descendants of vaudeville, you know, slapstick comedy.
oh yeah, you got George of the Jungle, you know, all the
Three Stooges,
yeah,
you know,
Woody Woodpecker.
And then what's funny is how those radio and TV old live action stars migrated into Saturday morning cartoon. Globetrotters, you know, Tarzan, there was
Scooby-Doo.
Scooby-Doo was made for that. It wasn't a radio show. Yeah.
No, but it had a lot of
the whodunits, yeah. And then later on we had things like Conan and Highlander and Sherlock Holmes Jr. and James Bond Jr. and all these stuff that were descendants of movies. You can see the lineage and how things changed. But parents quit wanting to talk to their kids about what they were watching, and it became a babysitter. And so then you had kids who didn't know better emulating what they saw because maybe they weren't mature enough to understand that you don't go around and hit somebody with a bat, because you'll hurt them. They don't just see stars and Tweety Bird. So parents relinquished their responsibility for convenience, and then the commercialization of products then turned everything we watched into massive commercials. And that's when we quit having good cartoons and started having toy commercials, just extended toy commercials to sell a product. And if the product ever quit selling, guess what happened to the show? It went off the air. But some of the older ones, the Flintstones, which was really a primetime show for adults that transitioned over into kids. We had
along the same lines, we had the Jetsons.
The Jetsons. And there was a group of cartoons that really epitomized that period of time where, the minute they no longer sold toys, we no longer saw, there was no longer any more
Would that be the
cartoons.
Hanna-Barbera stuff?
Well, Hanna-Barbera stuff stood the test of
yeah,
time. Look how long
fine.
Scooby-Doo has been around. 40 something years.
Well, I'm talking about the Herculoids and
Well, and that was a time when they were trying to emulate comics, because you ended up with the Herculoids. What was and for reason Captain Caveman is going me Captain Caveman. No, step back for a minute. Frankenstein Jr. What were the three guys who were the elemental rock, but they were a rock band, and they were water, earth, and I can't remember what the other, and they had this great flying car, and they always defeated the person by playing a song. And it was the music and stuff that would come out of their music. The musical notes would blast them and stuff. There was Samson and Goliath, not the Davy and Goliath, but Samson and Goliath, which was a Hanna-Barbera. Space Ghost, Johnny Quest.
Yep. Space Ghost, Johnny Quest.
I almost said Hawkman.
Birdman.
Harvey
before
Birdman.
he became, no, don't say Harvey.
I know.
C-Lab 2020. All those things that later became parodies of the
because a lot of that stuff, because even then you had Fantastic Four with Herbie instead of the Human Torch.
That was later. That was after Marvel got itself into trouble with its licensing.
Yeah.
Before that, we had a Fantastic Four that had all the characters, but because they licensed the Human Torch to somebody else, and they thought they were licensing the Android version of Human Torch, but in the way the contract was written, it was all things the Human Torch. So Franklin Richards, the later version of him, could not be televised on television because somebody else owned the rights to him. So boom, there we end up with Herbie the Robot.
Yeah, so here, in the 60s, we got comic book related would have been Superman, Aquaman,
Adventures of Batman,
the Spider-Man, Fantastic Four, then Space Ghost, the Herculoids, Birdman.
There was those Marvel ones, the Captain America, the Thor, the Hulk.
Yeah, those were like the 50s because they were actually out of the comics. They actually, instead of animating, they would have cutouts from actual pages, motion comics.
Yeah, motion comics, yeah. So let me see. Then you got Birdman and the Galaxy Trio, Galaxy Trio, and then you had the parody superheroes. Go ahead, David.
I was gonna say, is it weird that for me, Birdman isn't even a superhero? He's a lawyer.
Yeah, because it changed because he wasn't a lawyer.
Then you had
I blame Cartoon Network for that.
What I loved about that period of
Adult
time
Swim,
was
bro.
all of Hanna-Barbera's like superheroes that had gauntlets and could fire from their wrists, like Birdman and Space Ghost, only had 3 buttons.
Yeah.
But
You could do
500 different
everything.
things you could do with one
Yeah.
button.
Yeah, one button.
So boom, one was a
So it's like, how
a
do you
force
push?
blast, the other one pulled it towards you, a tractor beam. The one was a solar, and you're like,
It was like
wow,
a
it's
trumpet. Combinations, you know.
Yeah, do you
Oh, it was
tap it?
like-
Do you hold it for a couple seconds? Is it just just a flick? I mean, I don't know. What do I do?
it's just like Speed Racer. He would hit the clutch when he was trying to brake. He'd hit the brake when he was trying to speed up. And I was like, just quit showing his feet. I'm a kid and my mom drives a clutch. A standard. I know what that looks like. Quit it. But they still did it. And then everything was, oh. And I would just sit when I was driving to see if my parents would go, oh, when we were driving. Nothing like that ever happened.
Y'all weren't racing.
My dad raced everywhere.
My Uncle Gene raced everywhere too.
Yeah.
It's down the street, but I've got to be there in 2 minutes.
My Uncle Gene was a better driver drunk than he was sober. I love
Yeah,
it.
that's why I used to stop at green lights. People go, why the hell are you stopping at green lights? Because my brother might be coming the other way.
All right, so
Vince, real
go
quick,
ahead.
back to the Speed Racer. Vince and I, we went to one of the Comic Cons back in the day, and there was a whole panel on cartoon stuff. And one of the sections was on Speed Racer, and guy a couple rows up from us delivered one of the single greatest lines I've ever heard at a convention. He goes, so why does every voiceover sound effect sounds like somebody's having sex in the booth?
Yeah, sex in a room.
And the whole room just
And you're like,
pandemonium.
They're like
Oh,
in a
man.
room, in a sound room. They're doing the recording, and they're going, it's not sexy enough. But she's scared, and she's tied up, and she's about to fall
Poor
off the
Trixie.
cliff. She needs more moaning.
Well, there's that
speed.
There's that special remix of the theme song
Same song from the movie, yeah.
of Here Comes Speed Racer.
Oh, it's just like Popeye and Olive. Oh, Popeye. Oh, Olive. Oh.
All right, so let's go. So then you had the parody. So you had the parody, superheroes. So like Underdog, the Super Six.
Hong Kong Phooey. Don't you dare forget Hong Kong Phooey.
It doesn't have it on the list, but yeah, Hong Kong Phooey. Yep. And then you had like the musical life group cartoon. So the
Beatles, the Jackson
the Beatles Five, the Osmonds.
Yeah.
And then you had the Archie and then Josie and the Pussycats, of course.
Speed Buggy was part of that.
Yep.
Mhm.
That was all that hamburger Hanna-Barbera
Hamburger Barbarian.
animated cars, ghosts
That talk and
like,
transform, yeah.
Remember the Spirit of Saint 76, the ghost heavens to Mercury. Well, no, that's that was the other one, but the same character actor did the voice for both, so that they sounded identical. And remember who was he was like the Pink Panther of Hanna-Barbera. Exit stage left. I can't remember what the character's name was.
I know who you're talking about.
Yeah.
Did they also do? I guess they didn't do Pink Panther, did they?
No.
I know who you're talking about. Oh my God, what's his name?
Yeah, I can't remember. I know who you're talking about as well.
Somebody watching this right now is screaming at us.
Yes.
Hey,
Well,
if you know
that's
who this
what
was,
it is.
put it in the comments.
Put it in the comments. What was great is Hanna-Barbera had such a gallery of characters. They just started bundling them together in like the Great Race,
races, you mean?
Well, which one?
Wacky Races?
Well, there was Wacky Races, which were cars, with my favorite, the dog.
Mumbly.
Snively.
Yeah. But
Yeah.
no, the other one, World Race, was where everybody, they would fly blimps or car or
Yeah.
ships
Yeah.
or whatever, and they did these. It was a world race instead of a race from one city to another. Um, and there was Yogi, and
Yeah,
what
it was
the
all the
one with
Hanna-Barbera stuff.
there was one where Yogi had to save all the animals from Jellystone Park, so he loaded them in an Ark blimp, and they went on all these adventures, and it was all the Hanna-Barbera characters.
So then you got like what, HR Puff and stuff.
It
Sigmund
wasn't
and the Sea Monsters.
Snagglepuss, was it?
Yes, Snagglepuss
Yeah,
was
Snagglepuss,
the.
yeah. Hey, the monkeys are on here. I remember watching that in reruns.
Yeah, and that was a whole different. That was a period in response to the Beatles.
Correct. Yep.
And they were Saturday morning. A lot of people don't realize that too.
Yeah.
When Saturday morning started transitioning from cartoons to live action shows like Shazam, Isis, Arc 2.
So
What
in the
was the one that you
70s,
just listed?
oh, which one? I said the monkeys, the
Monkeys,
H&R Puff and stuff, the Sigmund and the Sea Monster. Another
the
one that
top
we used,
hat,
Thunderbirds are go.
yeah. One of the ones that I remember watching, but I don't remember it was when was Benny and Cecil? Was it in the 70s?
No, that started in the 50s.
The 50s.
Benny and Cecil,
man.
and
We used to
then
watch that all
it
the
was
time.
because it was an old black and white cartoon that when the creator of Ren and Stimpy became a hit, he decided, Bob Clampett, I think, went back and decided he was going to bring back some of the older stuff. So he redid Benny and Cecil, he redid Woody Woodpecker, and introduced us to some very old characters that he kind of modernized. But then Flukla, Fran, and Ollie, Captain Kangaroo, were live action shows that sometimes would have a little animated segment.
Bozo the Clown.
Bozo.
Yeah.
Well, if you're gonna, Bozo, who was the puppet, the cowboy?
Oh, that's Howdy Doody.
Howdy Doody, yeah.
So in the 70s, we got the Brady Bunch cartoon. Star Trek, I know you guys watched. The animated series.
Which is canon. What was great is it's canon in the shows. The cartoon show was canon.
There was one called Emergency. I don't remember that.
Oh, they did a lot. Emergency was like from the TV show. They did Fantastic Voyage as a cartoon.
So you had the Gilligan's Island, the New Adventures of Gilligan.
And Gilligan's in Space.
Yeah, Gilligan's Planet.
Yeah.
There was Happy Days, the Fonz, and the Happy Days Gang. Laverne and Shirley, Mork and Mindy, Partridge Family, of course.
Those were cartoons?
Yep.
No. Well, what about the?
They did. There was a
Mork and Mindy was
cartoon.
A cartoon?
Oh yeah, I do remember that. Yeah.
Just like there was a cartoon for later on for Bill and Ted. They did the same thing for what was the other one? Back to the Future had a cartoon.
So there was a couple of them that were adapted from other characters from literature and things. So Tarzan.
Yeah.
The Lord of the Jungle, Planet of the Apes, Lassie the cartoon, and then one of our favorites with Godzilla.
And then there was another show that came on Saturdays, and it was on ABC, and it was usually their last cartoon of the morning, of the Saturday, where they were ABC something, and they were stories, and they were like 45-minute long movies. They did one for Lost in Space, an animated cartoon for Lost in Space, but it only had Will Robinson the robot and Dr. Smith in it. They did one there was a TV show about a group of rescue airplane people that got made into a cartoon. And so it was their experimental thing where they'd show something as a pilot.
Okay.
And then if it got picked up, then either Filmation or whoever had the rights would then make a season of cartoons. And sometimes a season was all we got, like with all the Lucas stuff. We only got one season of the
Droids and stuff. And
well, I think
Ewoks.
there was two seasons of droids, but one season of Ewoks, right?
I had to look it up. So
Well,
here's
that's a blessing.
I mean,
Why
come
you
on.
didn't like
They
C-3PO
were-
walking around when his torso and his lower half
No,
were all
no,
connected
I'm
by a
talking about the
wire?
Yeah.
I'm just trying to
So you got the secret devices, which you were talking about. Jason of Star Command.
Star Command, yeah.
The Ghostbusters, the original, not the
Okay,
movie
yeah.
or the
Well, there was the real Ghostbusters, which were the original Ghostbusters, which Larry Stewart and I can't remember what the other gentleman's name
Yeah,
was, and that was
so-
a live action Saturday
live action. Yeah, that's
thing
what,
that then Ghostbusters was
animated.
a success, and they've had the Ghostbusters cartoon, so they decided, well, we're going to go and do Ghostbusters since we had the name first and we had the thing, and that caused a real big stink and a lawsuit, and that's why Ghostbusters, that most people knew, had to be called the real Ghostbusters, and the other one got their original name back as Ghostbusters.
But
So-
no one watched that show.
I did.
Come on, with
Just
the
like
grill.
I watched like Jim Neighbors and Ruth Buzzy, who were the aliens that were robots, and they came to Earth and ended up having to rescue two kids and had to flee Earth, and then they were on this big massive adventure in space. There were all these live action films that live action series that starred pretty big name people on it. What was it, the Astronauts, which was Bob Denver from Gilligan's Island, and another actor actually playing the skipper, because Alan Hale Jr. didn't want to do it, playing his type role, and they are cleaning crew on a spaceship, and the guy goes, hand me my sandwich from the lunchbox, and he goes, what, lunch? Okay, and hits the launch button and sends them both into outer space and for wacky adventures,
Okay, so I don't know if
Sigmund and the Sea Monsters,
yeah.
which was pretty big at the time for people.
So okay. As we get into this next part, because I think there's stuff that's missing, it just kind of gives a broad view, but here we go. We're going into the 80s now, Master of the Universe. Yeah.
But
Prince
Masters
Adam
Universe was a weekly show instead of a Saturday morning show. It became a Saturday morning show when they started using those syndicated shows in reruns on the main stations.
Right.
We ended up with a lot of stuff that was already been seen reintroduced on Saturday morning to hopefully younger audiences, and that didn't do really well.
Well, remember, G.I. Joe was miniseries first, and they were on Saturday morning. They weren't syndicated yet. They weren't on the weekly. They were Saturday morning.
Well, every movie got turned into there were 3 movies. The last one was Pyramid of Darkness before the series started. And then they edited them down to 30-minute episodes, and they were part of seasons. So basically, if you bought the movies when they got released, and then you bought the series, you got the same thing for half of the shows.
But yeah, Transformers is that way. Mask was another one that was
Sunbrow in Marvel, and
then you had Jim and the Holograms, which Ember was loved that show. It was actually a pretty good show. Thundercats, of course, and Silverhawks, and then you got Visionaries,
which was a toy commercial, because
the
figures were coming out and they had to have a cartoon to help promote it, just like Insectoids and all of them other little cartoon things that were horrible.
The funny thing is, this thing doesn't have some of the stuff that's on here that should be here, and I might have.
What you really want to do is go find old TV Guide libraries where they would show what a list of a Saturday morning was on NBC, ABC, and CBS, because it's all we had.
No,
it
and
was
then
later that those other channels came in. But cartoons, Saturday morning cartoons originally started on the main 3 networks.
right.
And so
Right.
you can go find old TV guides that will show you the Saturday morning lineup. And then one
So,
other thing that
'cause, like-
told you it was, hold on. Another thing that told you these were events was prior to the new season of cartoons, Friday night, they would do a big special where an actor would come on and introduce you to the new cartoon lineup for Saturday morning.
Right.
And that
So
was
you
a
could-
big thing, and you had to compete because like NBC would show theirs the same time CBS was showing theirs. So you're like a schizophrenic switching back and forth between channels, and your parents are going, "Stop it! You're driving me nuts. I have to see them all. I have to catch
Right,
Not
them."
'cause you
everybody
would-
had a Hall H.
Right. Or as my dad with the he would be recording on one and doing something on the other, or watching
When
the other.
VHS came out, but
Yeah.
that wasn't always there either. You know, back in the day, if you didn't catch it when it was first run on television, you had better hope it would be rerun within the year, or you had to wait till the next year when it would come out of the closet and be reshown.
Yeah.
So there's a different. The funny thing is about this like list here that I'm
They
looking
even
at.
did a cartoon for the Time Machine too.
I remember that. You showed it to me. But here's the thing. So this list is very like skewed a certain way because it goes from like the Visionaries to it goes My Little Pony, right? And you would think it would be like, Rainbow Bright and
Strawberry shortcake.
Strawberry
Yeah,
Shortcake.
Strawberry Shortcake, yeah.
And a few Care Bears. Care Bears is not even on this list. I'm like, how can you not have Care Bears on here? But then it goes in like the Turtles and the Real Ghostbusters, which are great things. But you could definitely tell the person who wrote this was very skewed on like the
Male.
yeah. I mean, which is
I don't-
fine because that's what we watched. But I had a sister.
But okay.
What, David?
You say, oh, he skews male, but you said My Little Pony was in that list too, right? So I guess if he does,
That
skew
was
male,
before bronies were
Bronies, bro.
hatched.
Bronies, man.
Yeah.
Bronies.
he's an OG brony, is what you're trying to
Oh,
say.
yeah.
But then you got like, he briefly mentions the Snorks.
It's BB before bronies.
But like
Good lord.
the Littles
You wanna
aren't
talk
even on
about
here.
knockoffs?
Need that dismount.
What is it? Captain N isn't on here.
Captain Nintendo, but they couldn't say Nintendo, so he was called Captain
Yeah.
N.
And then like how they write this in here is like, because I love the Muppet Babies. That show was fantastic, especially when they do their Star Wars imaginary episodes when it had footage from Star Wars in it. Fantastic.
How about the what was the Raisins? California Raisins
California
cartoon.
Raisins.
They had their own cartoon.
But you got a pup named Scooby Doo, and then the Flintstones kids. But you're missing. Oh, come on! I just had it too.
Is Pound Puppies on there?
Oh, Pound Puppies is not on here. I'm like, what? How can you have Pound Puppies on here? That's a big like Garfield's on here, but what about Heathcliff? Heathcliff's not on
No.
here. Where's Dennis the Menace? So let me see if I can find another list. But yeah, guys.
What about the 13 Ghosts of Scooby-Doo?
Scooby-Doo, yeah.
The 13
With
Ghosts of
the disembodied head of Vincent Price floating around. We've got to capture this ghost. I watched it just because Vincent Price was doing the voice, and because I hated the cartoon. It just wasn't good. But damn it,
Hey,
anything with Vincent Price in it, man.
Absolutely. No,
Well,
like the list, from that list that you were just rattling off, right? It's like I didn't hear Super Friends, right? Hey, how about
Nobody
some-
talks about Super Friends.
mention all these others, but no Super Friends? Come on now.
Solomon
Super
Grundy
Friends-
won Super Friends too.
Super
You
Friends.
know,
is actually-
I love Super Friends when it was Wendy and what was her
Marvin.
brothers, Marvin.
Wendy and
and that-
Marvin and Superdog.
Yeah. But when it became the Superpowers show, you really
Yeah.
saw how it became, wow, we've got more superheroes that I love. But man, are the stories even worse from back in the day. I mean, they dumbed down everything. And then I remember, because there was an attack on animation at the time, the studios decided to go the same route that the comic books did and create their own comics code. So they started policing themselves.
Yeah.
And so one of the things they did was force the creators to put in a "did you know" or "now you know."
Oh yeah,
or
like knowing half the battle.
yeah, those little disclaimers like the wheel of morality, turn, tell us what lesson today we must learn.
Hey, but you know what? Because of all of that, there's an entire generation of kids out there who got to learn about pork chop sandwiches.
Pork chop sandwiches, thank you. As first thing popped in my head.
I mean, it's important. It was important groundwork that got laid once upon a time. That
got laid already.
Kid, I'm a computer.
Sections of the internet, right?
Stop all the downloading.
Yeah. But the funny thing, like anytime I think about the Super Friends, I always remember that that's the show that actually taught me who Green Lantern was and kind of lent me into him being my favorite character, just because it made no sense looking back on it. But when he uses his ring to merge himself with Superman so they can break out of a black hole, it's like, it doesn't do that, but it was awesome.
No, a lot of the stuff, the characters, and Aquaman does not sleep with fish, you know.
He might.
He might. Well, I mean, is an Atlantean fish?
Hey, he made it what is it, a puffer fish to sleep and lay on his head?
That is oh, okay. There you go. Thank you for saving me.
Oh, Jesus, Dad. My dad.
Perpetually in the gutter.
My dad
always, you know.
But it's funny because
I'm going to be dying and an angel's going to come down, put a tan down for me to grab me to take me to heaven. I'm going, did you wash that hand?
But okay, so there was also like the BBC stuff, you know, PBS, you know,
the Children's Network had their own things, which were really, really skewed towards educational things.
So okay,
you know,
was it the Jason the Star Command? Who was the guy that did the drawings and stuff? I know
Jason the Star Command was live action, and Scotty was part of it at one point, and then there was another one with Dr. Smith.
No, but
the actor who played Dr.
the,
Smith was the head. I don't remember what that one was.
What was the show that was on PBS where the dude would draw like all these like Escher paintings or stuff and?
Oh, you mean with Rudy to Booty there? Or?
Was he an artist in each episode? He was drawing something and teaching kids how to draw.
Yeah.
What is his name? We met him.
Yeah, I know.
One of the Texas cons.
The only person I think of is Bob Ross.
No, not Happy Little Tree.
You know, and Bob Ross wasn't the original. There was another guy before him, and he retired.
Yeah.
And then Bob Ross got his show, and then I would and me and Ray would want to do drinking contests to hear how many times he goes, "This nice, a cute little tree, cute little house,
happy little,
and we're going to paint this little VC right up here, waiting on the Americans to come walking through. Let's give him a little sniper buddy over here in this tree, you know, because you knew that mother saw something in Vietnam that broke him and made him like that." And and the Creep Show, the new Creep Show television series that they did last season, one of the best friggin' spoofs on Army of Darkness, Evil Dead, and Bob Ross, because it was the Necronomicon got brought into a public access television studio and was brought before a guy who was going to do a review, you know, I found this in my closet. How much is it worth? One of those things. He goes, "Oh, this is the Necronomicon." And he's opening, "This is real blood." And the guy's just really scientifically breaking it down. And you're like, yeah, that would never happen. I found that in my mother's closet. But Sam Raimi's son plays the guy who found it, and he's playing himself. And he said, "I found this while cleaning up some stuff at my brother's house, and I'm just wanting to know how much it's worth." Well, they decide to read the damn Necronomicon out loud in the studio, but for some reason the broadcast breaks. It doesn't go out to the world. So the entire studio gets filled with deadites. The audiences that were there, producers, cameramen, they all start turning and trying to kill everybody. And what's Sam Raimi's brother's name?
Ted.
Ted, I mean, he's the first one who gets killed. And then the guy who was giving the review on the book gets killed. And it's up to a female producer who was her first day, a cameraman who's overweight, and a Bob Ross knockoff who was busy painting the most beautiful little waterfall you've ever seen with a tree. Let's put a tree growing up out of the brook. What kind of brook tree grows out of a brook? It'll drown, it's gonna die. And I'm like, just dying laughing at all the fun that they're poking at this. And he reverts into his Vietnam Rambo personality and takes them all out. Man, I was dying. I was like, I'm gonna die here in this chair and nobody will know what killed me.
There was a Bob Ross meme going around. Each Bob Ross painting, it was a place where he hit a body.
I always hated like he would do these beautiful city streets with the rain falling down and the lights reflecting and go, let's put a cabin right here in the middle of the street. What? What the hell? What drugs are you on? Ship that shit over here. Quit bogarting it. Man. Keep that. I don't care.
What I grew up with, guys.
Hey, remember Ray? Ray would be painting with him, right? Ray lived with us for a while. Ray'd have his canvas, all his paints laid out. He'd be painting, and Bob Ross would be talking, and then we'd be off doing something else, and he'd hear, "What the? Yeah, excuse me." And you come in, and you go, "What?" He the painting. He put a freaking house in the middle of the street. There's one side of the street. There's downtown. Who puts a freaking cabin in the middle of the? And he'd go off and lose his mind over this stuff. And I'd say, Ray, for your own sanity and ours, please quit watching that show.
Vinny, I'm going to
shout
send
out to you, buddy.
Vinny, I'm going to send you the MP3 of the song. My band Dented Snowman called. We wrote a song about Bob Ross. I play bass.
That should be played on this.
I gotta send you it so you can hear it. It's
okay. So in miniatures, right? So I can put it at the end of the episode.
Oh yeah, I wrote it. I co-wrote it.
Okay, all right. I'll put this at the end of the episode, guys. I'm trying to breathe. This is what it was like growing up, guys. You know, my dad and all of our friends and family would just make jokes, and we would just hear laugh.
The tangents.
Lack of oxygen.
I remember I went off on a rant one time, and your mom laughed so hard that I heard her go and then stop breathing, and she fell back on the bed, and she was not literally breathe, stupid, breathe. And she was laughing even harder because I was saying that, and she goes, "You're killing me, go away." And it was just because we watched the show. And I was like, okay, I've had enough of this. I'm just going to rip this thing to shreds here because this is ridiculous.
So, you know, it's a good thing that the movie Abyss hadn't come out because you would have reenacted that scene.
Oh, he did eventually, I'm sure.
I don't know where to take that. I can touch it. It's an
All
alien
right,
probe.
I'm not talking about that, Dad. Jesus.
I'll think about it, man. This big old long phallic symbol thing is going snaking through the tunnels of the underwater, thing. How not subversive is not the suggestive is that,
Yeah.
Well, it's because of that movie we got the idea for the T-1000, the technology he used.
Technology from it, yeah.
Yeah, it's called Redemption.
Hey, Abyss wasn't bad. We enjoyed it.
No, it wasn't bad.
No, I love
it. It was
Abyss.
abysmal.
No, it was not. I love the Abyss. I love the one that's uncut though. The one where they actually the uncut, uncensored. You know what? That was so great. I'll let you keep the war part of that, where the stuff
That's
on
a
the
callback to
surface
the movie.
was they were The world is
Yeah,
at war, on the brink of
yeah,
destroying.
attention got high.
We were about to fire the nukes, and all the aliens were trying to do was say, "Hey, stop for a minute," and because they were stuck on the planet too, they had crashed on Earth and had to rebuild all their technology to be able to leave, and they wanted to get the hell off the planet before we, wiped ourselves out, and decided that there was some, because of who they met underwater, decided there were enough people there to want to try to help us save ourselves. It was a great movie. I loved it. I love everything Cameron writes. Too bad some of it doesn't end up on the screen.
And like I've said,
You love everything Cameron writes.
Show me one thing he wrote that was horrible.
Spider-Man's organic web shooters.
But
that one.
did he?
Yes.
Or was he
That was-
borrowing that from something that already existed in the Marvel universe? Because I know he wrote a Spider-Man script. Yeah.
No, that was his treatment. That was his lasting contribution to all of the Tobey Maguire movies, was the fact that
Yeah, because I think
didn't
Spider-Man 2099 actually come out before the very first
Yes.
Tobey Maguire Spider-Man, which actually had the first printing of organic web shooters.
I know, but having Peter Parker have organic web shooters.
Yeah, well, I mean, it was the whole thing was, okay, here's the argument. How does a kid who's broke and lives in Brooklyn create something that 3M, a $1 billion industry, couldn't come up with, and he does it in his uncle's garage? While you're at it, how did he come up with a state-of-the-art outfit that didn't just shred every time he hit something? There are some liberties here, So Cameron tried to ground it a little bit, say, hey, let's make it spinnerets. At least he didn't have it come out his ass, which would have made Spider-Man so much more interesting.
Right. Especially the upside down kiss.
Where he runs over and he goes and catches a burglar as he's running. And then some people comes out of a bar drinking, and you see this guy with this stringy shit out his ass wrapped around him. I'm instantly going into an AA meeting.
Yeah. And he's no tacos ever.
No tacos.
Yeah, no tacos.
Swing.
Could you imagine being the guy who has to clean up those toilets?
Oh, man. And, because Peter Parker's webbing was originally indestructible, and it left that shit hanging all over the place, and people had to come in and have careers of cleaning it out. They decided in Marvel, let's make them break down after 24 hours. So how do you make something chemically break down like that on a time schedule? It's easier if it's organic because it disintegrates.
Right.
You can't outsmart the guy who actually created some of the technology that's used by deep sea researchers. Cameron and his brother has really helped push that technology.
Yeah.
So
bless his heart.
I just hate the fact that he made her get back on the boat, but that's just me.
Which one? Oh, you mean the tugboat?
I just hate the fact that Kate Winslet got back on the boat.
Well, you hated that because you didn't think it was fair. Hey, look, if this movie had been about you, you'd have pulled her off the damn thing, climbed up on it, and you say, swim down, you swim now.
No, as I said before, I went into this movie thinking that it was all about Leo trying to get her off the boat. And then halfway through the movie, Leo succeeds in his mission and gets her
comes back on
off the boat, and then she jumps back on. And as I've explained it before, if I'm Leo in that moment, I'm turning to Billy Zane and being like, "Hey, Billy,
yeah, you've got her.
You and me, we're gonna go like that. She's crazy. All right, that he's gonna get me killed. You got a boat waiting." Billy Zane be like, "Hell yeah!" And then if the rest of that movie was just Billy Zane and Leo partying up in New York, man, I'd be on board for that whole thing. But the fact that she gets back, I get it, love story, all that.
No, but it's not really a love story. Leo's purpose was to save her, even from herself. He saves her, but yet she keeps making mistakes that put herself in danger, and he ends up sacrificing himself so that she could learn that lesson. Wheel, turn.
No. Time travel.
But
time travel.
I know that's your theory of it. It was all about time travel. But let me ask you a question, David, as a father, since this is the dad level podcast.
Uh-huh.
Have you ever told your kids not to do something? Stay there while I go do this. Stay there. I'm going to go help this person. Don't move. You stay there. You're safe right here. You go over into the dangerous situation, turn, look down, and your kid's going, can I help? Yeah, you're going to help by staying over there. Now, not only do I got to try to figure out how to keep me alive, save these people, I got to watch out for your because you don't listen.
Sure.
And so you would go, oh, well, here's a big bad monster. Go help daddy by attacking it while I pull these people out of the car they just threw.
I mean, it was a natural 20.
I mean, maybe.
Yeah, they roll a natural 20. And then
if they were Hobbit and they'd shown proficiency in rolling nat 20s, sure. But there's a little bit of a difference in your analogy of a child who sees their parent running off into a dangerous situation and wanting to apply themselves and be an aid.
Well, no, that's if they see it. But I'm going outside to help these people. You stay in the house where it's safe. And I know you're safe. It's like, I can go fight this battle. I can defeat them. You need to stay here because I can't split my time between you and myself. So if you love me and you want to help me, stay out of the danger, stay out of here. But no, they got to come. I can help. Or like in movies where the woman runs up to the guy, so stay there. I can't help you. I can't fight this thing if you're here. Stay where you're safe and I can do this. And then they show up and go, hi, look, I'm over here. I came to help you. And then you get killed and they end up defeating it and become the hero of the story. And you're like,
So not that we're going to continue down this Titanic rabbit hole, but again,
it is a massive Titanic hole.
That is again, the characters that we were discussing at the moment is a person wanting to apply themselves to a situation, show that they're adults, show that they're grown, show that they're mature, that they can aid you in your task and not be that hindrance. They turn into a hindrance and then they become the hero. So it's either one of two things. It's either the child is actually wanting to be a help and is trying to grow right into maturity through that, and you have that, or that child's a horrific villain and knows that you're going to die and is going to steal all your power and become the hero.
I knew David would find a way to do this.
Both of those routes you can go down, and neither one of those is the one that Kate Winslet was on. Hers was just the route of stupidity, but that's fine.
Self-destructive stupidity.
Self-destructive stupidity. Again, it was dumb. But
and what saved her was a good sticking from a blonde-haired young man in the backseat of a very expensive car.
There you go.
I'd like the last word on this topic. Yeah, my kids referred to the movie as
Titanic. Yeah.
Sounds about right.
I get, I've said this before, thousands I've told this story. The two things, when I was in the theater, we were in a theater that had like 1,538 people in it, max capacity. And I was setting it up high because we got there a little late, and I was watching it from above, looking down at all the audience at the film. And when everybody died and they showed all the people floating, the realization came upon me that everybody in this room would have died. If we just went by numbers, we hadn't hit the numbers who would start being saved yet. Everybody in this room, and it dawned on me that's a lot of death. Biggest death count in any movie, except for ones with nuclear weapons.
If we're gonna talk about imaginary things, no, I would have turned into a Super Saiyan and lifted the Titanic and everybody else to safety. If we're gonna talk about this hypothetical bullshit that's not gonna ever happen.
And then second was that how many people went into the theater not knowing what the hell the Titanic was, not knowing that excuse me, I just burped. It made me throw up a little bit in my mouth at the thought of this.
It's a rough
how
movie.
many went into that movie thinking, why did if I'd known the boat was going to sink, I would have never come saw this. And I actually heard two girls say this coming out of the theater, and the lady I went to the movie with had to stop me from going, you're embarrassing your race, the human race. Stop,
Good thing you're pretty.
Good Lord, change your tape so you can keep breathing.
Yes.
So did they do a cartoon of the Titanic? I wonder. Maybe it was
No, I would love to see that.
That would be nice. A nice anime. Yeah.
And I can see it now. No, the Titanic sinks and they find out there's a professor on board who figures out a way to make oxygen and everything, and they make environments so they're actually living underwater at that age. And then somebody comes along to try to bring the Titanic up and find. Wait a minute, that was a movie. Never mind.
So actually, you talking about anime, right? There's an anime called Baccano, which is a very odd anime, but it has one of the best openings to any anime I've ever seen. It's almost equivalent up there with Bebop. And the entire concept, I can't say the entire concept. There's a lot of storylines going on in that anime, but it kind of boils down to there's a group of people that have found the elixir for immortality, and a bunch of people wind up finding themselves on this train where there's this crazed killer that's going around murdering everyone. And you could transpose the characters in those kind of stories onto the story of the Titanic, where you have this weird battle between different factions trying to get their hands on the elixir of life. And meanwhile, you have this psychotic madman that's running around that just doesn't care about anything, that may or may not be immortal, and is slowly picking people off one by one and then sinks the ship. And so you could have this entire case of the elixir of life sitting at the bottom of this ocean that's completely unable to get to. And so it's, yeah, I mean, you could do interesting things with that story, just not putting Kate Winslet back on the boat.
And we'll write it for you. Put your address and how much you'd pay us in the discussion, and let us know, and we'll create
You have
whatever
an
the hell you
email.
want.
Send me an email with your information. We'll work on making.
David will be our head writer.
There you go. Yeah, that's what I need to do.
Here.
Oh man.
Borrow mine for a minute.
But going back to cartoons, Saturday morning, there were some cartoons that actually were pretty well written and great. Granted, they were, like Exo Squad was really good storytelling wise, but it was a toy commercial.
Yeah.
But it reminded me of the old Star Blazers or Battle of the Planets, So.
Okay, come on, Jason and the World Warriors.
That is awesome.
Yeah.
I used to have every figure, and I still have all the episodes, but somehow all of my figures disappeared.
Imagine that.
I'm staring at somebody because he would go in and take them and play with them. And then, where the hell is Saw Boss's blade? I don't know. Is it gone? What do you mean? I don't know. I found it in your room.
No, the worst thing
Amber
was,
did it. She's trying to frame me.
No, the worst thing was whenever we would have friends come over and then you would slowly start missing your stuff.
Yeah, after we get them out of the house, and I'd be like, "Ooh, I'm tired." Walk by myself. Damn it! I'm gonna have to search everybody that comes out of this house, and then there would be the people like with my books and my movies. Hey, I've never seen this. Oh, you've been a good friend for a long time. Here, take it, watch it, and bring it back to me. Never see him again. What did you do? You just became our friend and waited for that exact moment so you could steal my freaking video and not come back.
The whole time.
Talk about the long con.
The worst thing was that Dad with his Battle Beasts. He had like a nice selection of Battle Beast figures.
Every one of them that had ever come out, and it was all on a shelf.
They were all on a shelf in the hallway. And slowly but surely, they just started to dwindle down. And there was one point I remember my dad going in the hallway. Something's not right here. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Start counting them. There's one missing. And then the next day, there's another one missing. Who's coming over here? And then Jeff was afraid that you were going to think it was him, and it wasn't.
No.
But it was just some kids that we were hanging out with, me and Ember, and
yeah. And then there was like the kid who was stealing all my video games.
Hey everyone, hope you enjoyed this episode. Sorry for the 10. We had some recording issues towards the end of the episode, so you really didn't miss much. It was just kind of the outro and us finishing what we were discussing, but it's not a big deal. So, but what I wanted to do was leave you with a song that my Uncle Colin wrote. back in 1996 for Bob Ross. We hope you enjoy it. And if there's anything that you can think of that you remember from Saturday morning cartoons that you enjoyed watching, or even just role playing, because I know we talked about that at the beginning of the episode, let us know down below. Well, we hope you have a good one. Talk to you later.
This is a happy little song. Gonna paint a happy little picture with a river and a tree or two. Gonna take a little piece of canvas and we're gonna make a little magic. First we take a little liquid paint, then we add a shade or two. Then we take a happy little brush and lay across canvas once or twice. It's a shame it only lasts a very short time. It's a shame we only have reruns to follow. It's a shame that one man rules so many hearts. It's a shame, shame. Today we're gonna paint a happy mountain scene with a sunrise sitting in the back. We're gonna use a little subtle brush, we're gonna brush it lightly back and forth. Very simple, I know that you can do it. Very simple to do as you can see. You too can paint a happy little picture. All you have to do is want to try. It's a shame it only lasts a very short time. It's a shame we only have reruns to follow. It's a shame that one man rules so many hearts. It's a shame, shame. It's a shame it only lasts a very short time. It's a shame we only have reruns to follow. It's a shame that one man rules so many hearts. It's a shame, shame. We're gonna paint a happy little picture with a river and a tree or two. Gonna take a little piece of canvas, and we're gonna make a little magic. Gonna paint a happy little picture with a river and a tree or two. Gonna make a little piece of canvas, gonna make a little bit of magic. Gonna take a happy little picture with a river and a tree or two. Gonna take a little piece of canvas, gonna make a bit of little magic. Gonna make a happy little picture with a river and a tree or two. Gonna take a little piece of canvas, gonna make a little bit of magic.